Mrs. Rachel Parker's hands trembled as she looked at the little boy in front of her. Danny's sneakers were barely held together by fraying threads, with holes that revealed his tiny, frostbitten toes. It was the middle of winter, and the snow outside was relentless. Tears welled in her eyes. No child should endure this, she whispered to herself. What she didn't know was that the act of kindness she was about to perform would change her life forever. Rachel was a beloved elementary school teacher in a struggling urban district. Her students were her life, and she often went above and beyond to make sure they felt safe, cared for, and supported. Danny was a quiet boy from a single-parent household barely making ends meet. One day, as Danny hesitated to join his classmates outside during recess, Rachel noticed his predicament. She knelt down, touched his shoulder, and asked softly, "Why aren't you playing, Danny?" The boy looked away, muttering, "My shoes hurt, they're too old." Rachel's heart shattered. The next morning, she stopped by a store and purchased a sturdy pair of winter boots, warm socks, and a little note that read, "Danny, keep being the amazing boy you are. Love, Mrs. Parker." When Danny came to school and found the package on his desk, his face lit up like the morning sun. "Thank you, Mrs. Parker," he said, tears streaming down his face. For the first time in weeks, he played outside with the other kids, laughing freely. Rachel's joy was short-lived. A week later, she was called into the principal's office. Mr. Hargrove, the rigid and bureaucratic head of the school, glared at her from behind his desk. "Mrs. Parker, I've received complaints from some parents," he began. "Apparently, you're giving special treatment to certain students. This is against school policy." Rachel tried to explain. "It wasn't about favoritism. Danny was suffering, and I couldn't just stand by." But Mr. Hargrove wouldn't listen. "You've crossed a line. Effective immediately, your contract is terminated." Rachel walked out of the office in disbelief. Her heart was heavy not because of her job, but because she feared she might never see her students, especially Danny, again. Word of the incident spread through the community. Some parents supported Rachel, while others sided with the administration. The story eventually caught the attention of a local journalist, who published an article titled, "Fired for Kindness, Teacher's Act of Compassion Sparks Controversy." The story went viral overnight. People around the country debated Rachel's actions, with many lauding her as a hero. One of those readers was billionaire entrepreneur Mark Welling, known for his philanthropic work. He was scrolling through his phone when the article popped up. He paused, read it again, and picked up his phone. "Get me Mrs. Parker," he said to his assistant. Rachel was sitting in her small kitchen, scrolling through job listings, when her phone buzzed. A deep voice greeted her. "Mrs. Parker, this is Mark Welling. I read about what happened at your school, and I want to help." Rachel was stunned. "Mr. Welling, I appreciate your kindness, but I don't know how you could help." Mark chuckled. "I think you underestimate how much one act of kindness can inspire the world. I'd like to fund a program in your name, the Rachel Parker Foundation, to provide resources and supplies to underprivileged children nationwide. And if you're interested, I'd like you to lead it." Tears streamed down Rachel's face. "I don't know what to say. Thank you." Months later, Rachel stood on a brightly lit stage at the launch of the foundation. Behind her was a massive banner that read, "Every child deserves a chance." She spoke to an audience of educators, parents, and children, sharing her story of Danny and the lesson she'd learned. "When we show kindness," she said, her voice steady but full of emotion, "we don't just change one life, we create ripples that can change the world." Danny was in the front row, wearing his new boots, a bright smile on his face. Rachel's heart swelled. She'd lost her job, but she'd gained something far greater, a chance to make a difference on a scale she never imagined. The story ends with children across the nation receiving supplies and support, all because one teacher decided to make a small but powerful difference.